Good morning. This is Pastor Scott Conway at QXChurch. You'll find us online at QXChurch.org. And we're broadcasting on Google Hangouts again live. So for those of you in the live audience, when you see me turn and face the camera over here, you know what I'm doing. And then for those of you on camera, my audience is out this way, so I'll be talking to them most of the time. Why is tenacity? So today we're talking about being tenacious, but being tenacious wisely. Matthew 7, verses 7 and 8. Ask, and it shall be given to you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives. Everyone who seeks finds. And to him who knocks, it shall be opened. And that's Matthew. It's the New Testament, first book in the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Matthew, chapter 7, verses 7 and 8. And this is Jesus Christ talking. So this seems like this must be pretty important. You have a red letter Bible, this will be in the red letters. You can learn to trust the red letters. Ask, seek, and knock. A lot of people think of this, well, but I prayed, I asked, I looked, I Googled it. You know, I knocked, I made an inquiry. But that's not what it means. Ask, seek, and knock are imperfect imperatives. Now, what an imperfect imperative is, it's to be doing something. It's a command, not just to do a thing as in beginning, middle, and end. It's a command to start something and continue in that until whenever it's finished. So ask, seek, and knock are these kind of imperfect imperatives. An imperfect imperative is a command to do something and to keep on doing it. Therefore, completely translated from the Greek language, Matthew 7, 7 through 8 should say something more like, ask and keep on asking. Seek and keep on seeking. Knock and keep on knocking. For everyone who asks and keep on asking shall eventually receive. He who seeks and keeps on seeking will eventually find. And he who knocks and keeps on knocking shall eventually have it open. So this isn't the sort of thing where we say, okay, God, I want $20 million, gold bullion in the middle of the floor right now, please. But I prayed, where's my money? Okay, I have to go seek it. Maybe it won't be in the middle of the floor. Maybe it's in the other room. I went seeking. Or maybe it's behind door number 2. I knocked on the door and nothing happened. Well, this verse must be a lie. But it isn't. It's true, and it's a principle. Now, a principle as opposed to a law means that it applies in a different sort of way. You ask and you keep on asking. You seek and you keep on seeking. You knock and you keep on knocking. You continue this pursuit. You do your part, trusting that the answer is there. Now, when you're dealing with principles as opposed to law, law of gravity is a law. That means it applies every single time without exception. It does not change. Basically, it's physics. Physics and math work on laws. Most of life works on principles. There's things that usually work. And a lot of times stuff is stated as a general principle when it's more like an 80-20 or a 90-10, sometimes a 99-1. But it doesn't work all the time, but it is the principle of how you get things done. That if you ask and you keep on asking until you get the answer, you will get the answer. If you seek and you keep on seeking until you find, well then you will find. If you knock and you keep on knocking until the door is open to you, well then the door will be open to you. Now some of this suddenly seems pretty self-evident. Well then what's the point? Well, you do have to ask. You do have to seek. You do have to knock and understand that there's going to be a higher cost to it than you might wish there was. You might wish, one question, boom, I'm going to get all the answers out. I'm going to spend 20 minutes later on this afternoon seeking an answer to some big thing I'm dealing with, and boom, I expect to have the answer. I expect to go to one door, seek out one opportunity, knock one time, and I expect that door to be open to you. If you do that, you will very likely be disappointed because that is not the way this principle works. There is a price to it. First off, you must ask where you might find answers. So obviously, if you go asking someplace that cannot give you an answer, you're not going to get your answer. So if I'm seeking the answer to a calculus question, what do I have to do? I have to find someone who knows calculus and inquire of them. If I'm seeking the answer to a history question, well, I have to go find a resource that has this historical information, and I have to ask there. You have to take your inquiry, take your asking someplace that can give you that answer. So if you're a kid and you want permission to do something, well, you have to go to your parents. You don't go to your next door neighbor's pet. Well, I asked Charlie's dog, and Charlie's dog didn't say it was a problem. So obviously you have to ask, begin your asking where the asking is appropriate. You seek where you might find what you're looking for. So there's the old joke about the drunk who lost his keys. And, a police officer comes along and finds him underneath the street light searching for his keys and asks, well, what happens? Well, I lost my keys, officer. They go, oh, okay, well, I don't see them around. Where did you lose them? Well, I lost them over down the street there. Well, why are you looking here? Well, the light's better here. So you don't go seeking where it's convenient to seek. You go seeking where you're likely to find it. So you don't go looking here just because the light's better here. You don't go looking here just because it's easier to look here. You have to figure out, where would I find this, and go seeking. It can be a treasure hunt. If you have people who literally are treasure hunters, the biggest challenge of treasure hunting is the hunt itself. When you are seeking things out where you are likely to find it. And just like a treasure hunter, is it always going to be where you thought it was? Of course not. That's why you seek and keep on seeking. You don't keep looking in the same place again and again and again. Anyone who's ever lost their car keys, you know you put it down somewhere. You know you had them yesterday because you drove home. And you just didn't put them down where you normally do. Well, if you keep checking the same place again and again and again, if it wasn't there 10 seconds ago, it's probably not there now. Now, I don't know about you. Admittedly, I do have a habit. I start off in my usual spot. If it's not there, then I kind of go check some common places I might put my keys down. And if it's not there, then I start searching in unusual places. But here's my confession. I do keep going back to where I usually put them. Did I miss them somehow? So I will go double check where I already looked. But I honestly don't expect to find them sitting right where I just checked. So when you go seek in a place you may find it. If you already know the answer is not in a place, then don't keep seeking there. Go seek somewhere else. If what you want isn't at a place, don't keep seeking there. Go seek somewhere else. If you already know this path is not the way, don't keep walking the path. If you already know this system does not work, don't keep using the same system. Now, it's okay to do double checks sometimes, and especially if there's a reasonable expectation of change, you can do that. But there's a classic that may or may not actually be a legitimate quote, that supposedly Einstein said that one definition of insanity is to keep on doing the same thing and expect a different result. Certainly scientifically, that would be somewhat insane because, the basis of science is to test something and see what results you get. So if you already know something doesn't work, if you already know this produces that result when you want this result, well, then stop doing the thing that creates that result, and then being shocked you keep getting that result. So ask, seek, and knock. Now, knocking, you think of knocking as seeking out opportunity. We talk about opportunity knocking. Usually, honestly, opportunity doesn't knock. Opportunity is more the door. You seek opportunity. Opportunity rarely will come knocking on your door, though it does happen. Opportunity is presented to you as a door for you to go knock on. And when you knock on the door of opportunity, it will be opened to you sometimes. You knock and you keep on knocking, sometimes on a given door, and sometimes on multiple doors. So here gets to be where the challenge is. You can't be obnoxious about this. So one of the things that we've been finding in business, and I've been learning from a woman named Angelique Brewers, and she's talking about getting corporate contracts. And among her clientele, one of the things that her clients have reported to her is it has taken them, on average, between 11 and 13 contacts before they get an actual deal with them. Between 11 and 13 contacts. That's emails, that's phone calls, that's voice messages, that's actual meetings, that's material going back and forth. It'll take 11 to 13, so figure 12. A dozen contacts. Now, by the way, if you're obnoxious in contact number 1, well, then someone's not going to want to talk to you from contact number 2. And so they're building a relationship, and they're sustaining and maintaining this relationship as they knock on the same door 12 different times for 12 different interactions, seeking out this opportunity before that opportunity actually happens. Now, sometimes you begin knocking and they're just flat out not interested. And you go knock a second time, and now they're kind of annoyed because they already told you they weren't interested, and they really aren't interested. And so you have to knock in a polite way, seek out your opportunities in a relational way, so that way the next time you show up, they don't run, hide, and lock the door on you. So that's knocking and keep on knocking at the same door. Now, just because you make 12, 13, 15 approaches to a given company, to a given prospective employer, to a given prospective client, doesn't mean they're going to hire you. Sometimes a no is just a no, and it's going to stay a no, and that's okay. But sometimes the yes shows up after a dozen points of contact. And of course, that's big relationship building points of contact, not annoying, obnoxious points of contact. Another part of the knocking on the door of opportunity is multiple doors. So when someone's job hunting, when someone's client hunting, you don't take the one job, the one client, the one company, the one thing, the one girl, the one guy, and pursue them endlessly because it has to be this one. I mean, how many job applications would you put in if you're seeking out a job? 1? Of course not. 2? Probably more than 2. Maybe 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 or 20 or 80 or 100. I've known people seeking a particular job in a particular industry who put out over 100 resumes with a cover letter, with a letter of recommendation. And saw that, and his goal was 100 or more resumes as quickly as possible. It took him less than 3 weeks to make contact with all of these people and to put in his resumes and to try for the job. And he didn't get it. At which point he decided, well, time to change industries. Time to do something else. There just isn't the opportunity in this industry. So what did he do? He went knocking on 100 different doors. He knocked on every single door at least once, many of them 2, 3, 4 times, until he was clearly shut down. There just simply was not the opportunity, and he was not going to get one of these positions. So what did he do? Did he just give up and go home and say, well, that's it, I'm done? No, then he changed industries and started knocking on a different set of doors. And he pursued that until he found something. Now, this can take time. It can take weeks. It can take months. An acquaintance of mine just found a job after over a year of job hunting. And just started his new job last week. Very exciting stuff. It's knock and keep on knocking. Ask, seek, and knock requires action. It's action. It's not just utter a prayer and then don't do anything. You count the cost, though. So Luke 14:28. Luke 14:28. Suppose one of you, and this is more red letters. If you have a red letter Bible, you're looking in your red letter Bible, it's more of the red letters. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you sit down first and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? Everything has a price. Everything has a price. Sometimes a low price, sometimes a high price. And the prize may not be worth the price. This is a judgment call. You have to make this judgment call. Prizes have value. Sometimes low value, sometimes high value. Sometimes the prize is worth the price. Sometimes not. For example, we'll stick with the job hunting metaphor here for a moment. So there was a friend of mine, and he lost his job here in San Diego County, and he went job hunting. And he job hunted in his industry. Now, in his particular case, he only had really one strong marketable skill by which he knew he could make enough money to be able to support his family. And so he sought out jobs in that industry. Now, he exhausted all of the San Diego County work for as far as he could commute. And there just wasn't any opportunity. So he looked at opportunity outside of his industry for what else he might be qualified to do. And something he ran into was the realization that nothing else paid nearly what he could earn in the other industry. But he found another job opportunity, someone else who was interested in hiring him. The problem was they were in Los Angeles. Well, he can't commute from where he lives in San Diego to Los Angeles. The extra challenge is that his wife works here in San Diego, and she's not going to relocate, and the only way he can get this high-paying job is if he were to relocate. His kids are here, their friends are here, their school is here, so now he's got a challenge. What is the cost of uprooting your kids and your wife out of her career so you can go live near your job? He decided that's not worth taking the job. The other cost they considered is, well, what if I go up there every Sunday night, I live in Los Angeles Sunday through Friday, and I come home every Friday after work? And after examining all of their opportunities, they decided that is a high cost, but there's cheap apartments that I can live in. I can live very inexpensively there, so the money that I can bring home is more money than I could possibly make here. And after discussing it with the family, they decided to pay that price. Now, if your friends and relatives are in the military, and so you're dealing with families who routinely have like their Navy person gone for 6 months on the Westpac, or any military personnel gone for 13, 14 months on deployment, being on just Sunday night through Friday really doesn't seem like it's nearly as big a deal as it might for some families. So they decided that they were going to pay that price. And they did that. Now, in another family, similar situation, the work in this case was in Dallas. And the father of the house, in this case, could either uproot his family and move them to Dallas, and he saw Dallas and said he really didn't want to do that. They liked the people, the schools, the contacts, the family, and everything they would, but his job was sending him to Dallas. And so he would routinely hop on a plane, Sunday night, fly to Dallas. He would work the international office. Sometimes he would have to travel internationally to manage things for the corporation. And then he would fly home on Friday, and he'd be with his family on the weekends. And ultimately, he decided, I don't like this. This isn't worth it, provided I can find a way to provide for my family. So he went job hunting. And he found another position in another company that would allow him to both be home with his family and make enough money to support his family. And then he went and he talked to his boss and basically told him that, as much as, I obviously want me to run your international offices, and clearly I'm qualified to run your international offices, so I appreciate that, but I really don't want to. I don't like being away from my wife. I don't like being away from my kids. I don't like all of the travel. My kids are only going to grow up one time. I want to be near them. This is where their friends are, their school is, their family is. This is where their grandparents are. And I'm not going to relocate my family for this job. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I'll help you with whoever else is going to need to replace me. And of course, hey, if you need anything, just give me a call. Happy to lend some advice. And then he left and went to work for another company. Because for him, with that family, it wasn't worth the cost. The income differential between being the international vice president and working locally wasn't worth all the travel and the time away from his family. For the other family, it was. It's a judgment call. So the prize may not be worth the price, but it might be. It might be worth the price to you, but not worth the price to somebody else. Or the other way around. And of course, understand, people will be more than happy to give you advice. They'll be more than happy to tell you how you should live your life and what your judgment call ought to be. But when it's your judgment call, you have to make it. You have to decide. Now, the price may be higher than you think. So we talked about Luke 14:28 about counting the cost of building the tower. Luke 14:29 continues. But if you lay a foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you. Now, this is important to understand the culture of the day and how things get impacted. Now, if you read in Matthew in particular, there's a genealogy in there. And there's a genealogy in there that tells you the son of the son of the son of the son of. Same thing if you look in Luke. If you look in Mark, there's no genealogy in Mark. There's a kind of different kind of genealogy in John. But it kind of gives you enough of an idea to tell you the genealogy is important. That means the reputation of the family is important. That means if you mess up, when they ridicule you because you didn't count the cost, you laid a foundation for something intending to build a tower, you barely got started. You dug your hole, you laid your foundation, you laid it all for the piping, and then you sit there and go, oh, I don't have any money to actually build my house. When they ridicule you in that kind of culture, that not only affects you now, that affects you for the rest of your life. That affects your kids. That affects your grandkids. Because then not only do they look at you as like, oh, you were foolish, but then your children become the children of the fool, and your grandchildren become the grandchildren of the fool. So, I mean, this is huge. So when you do something that ruins the reputation of your family, that is huge. Now, whether we can understand this a bit more today that still makes sense to us today, is ruining the reputation of your company. So suppose I'm the CEO of a company. And as the CEO of this company, I do something incredibly idiotic. And I practically destroy the company. I undertake a massive project. I'm undercapitalized. There is no way I could possibly finish this project. But I started it anyway, even though any halfway smart person would have clearly been able to see that I can't write the checks necessary to do this. Well, what happens? Well, first off, I, as the CEO, get a reputation. So what's going to happen when I try to go to work for another company? That's going to affect me personally. But my company gets a reputation. So then when the new CEO takes over, and someone else is now running my company, and I'm not even there anymore, anyone who goes to work for that company or tries to hire that company to do any work will always know, wait, aren't you the company that had that major project that was a complete disaster? Now think about this. If you're looking for a contractor, and you know that this contractor totally blew their last project, that you knew that there was an acquaintance of yours that was in the papers, you heard the stories from your acquaintance directly, and that this company majorly blew a big project. Are you going to hire them? And how long will that reputation last? How long, when you blow it badly in business, will it be before people come flocking back to your doors? As a fairly simple example, this is something else that happened in real life. There was a restaurant that was known for its clam chowder. It had the most amazing, awesome clam chowder. People would come from miles around for this clam chowder. Well, then they changed owners. The new owner decided, well, we can save a little bit of money if we change this recipe, if we water it down a little bit, we don't spend all the money on these expensive ingredients. And for a little while, the profits went way up. Because imagine if you're charging $5 for a bowl of clam chowder, just as an example, and you're spending $3 on the ingredients, you're making $2 a bowl. And if you cut down on the cost of your ingredients to $1 a bowl, you just doubled your profits. And they had a huge month and a pretty big second month. By about the third month, people are realizing that these people aren't using the same recipes as the old owners, and this really isn't good. And they decided to not go there anymore. Well, by about 3, 4, 5 months down the road, the new owners begin to realize, okay, we blew it. We need to get the customers back. Let's go back to the original clam chowder recipe. That's like the signature thing for the restaurant, and let's do that. So do you think when they announce a return to the original recipe that everyone came flocking back? No. They didn't trust the business anymore. Even if there had been a new change in ownership, they still wouldn't trust the business anymore. And that happens. So the price may be higher than you think. Remember, everyone who sees it will ridicule you. So it's not just the price that you didn't count the cost before you started. It's what it could cost you to have blown it. Now, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody blows it. Why? So if, say, for instance, if you're building something and the economy changes, or what would happen around here, people were building condos and then the economy collapsed and the market for condominiums collapsed along with it. There's a lot of forgiveness if there's an obvious external cause for it, but if the basic reason boils down to is you didn't know what you were doing, and now you want me to trust you again. How can you show someone, now I do know what I'm doing, I learned my lesson, so that's important to remember. So count the cost. Understand the price may not be worth the price. Also understand the price may be higher than you think. John Maxwell teaches in corporations that things will take longer than you think they will take. They will cost more than you think they will cost. It will require more effort than you think it will require. And you will work more hours in your day than you think you will have to work to achieve most of your goals. It's just one of the realities of leadership. Now, one thing you can always do is pray. Pray without ceasing. As we ask without ceasing, we seek without ceasing, we knock without ceasing, you can pray without ceasing. Now, when you're praying without ceasing, this comes from Thessalonians. And so it's an actual verse, pray without ceasing, which could also mean never stop praying. Now, there's a couple of possibilities here. One is it could be an open channel to God at all times. You just kind of have this open channel to God. It's like having a two-way radio on, always tuned in to God. It's like being on the phone, and you always have them on speakerphone. So anytime you turn around to talk, they're there. And that's part of praying without ceasing. It could also mean no matter what is going on, a thing never drops off of your prayer list. So pray without ceasing could also mean that this never comes off my prayer list. Until this prayer gets answered, this stays on my prayer list. Now, God has made prayer available to us at very little price. I mean, think about what is the cost. If you're going to count the cost, your prayer, that's so hard. That's so expensive. That takes so long. I don't know what I'm going to do. The prayer has a very low cost. God gives us permission to go to the creator of the universe for free. Really, the only cost is we have to take the time to actually do it. God has made prayer available to very little cost as an action we can always take as a first resort. A lot of people don't pray as a last resort. You pray as a first resort to lead off our asking, seeking, knocking, and all of our other actions. So when we're out of options, we can always keep on praying. Now, hopefully it's not when we're out of other options, now we pray. That the praying should have started at the beginning, continued all through the process, and continue when you're out of other options. It never guarantees an outcome, but it is always there. Now, when you open with prayer, when you bring a matter to God, you're not taking it to God in order to absolve yourself of the responsibility to take action, but you're taking it to God to help guide and energize you, motivate you, and keep you going in the actions that are yours to take. So if my son came to me and says, I've decided that I want to get a job. I want to get a good-paying job, a high-paying job, start a career, the kind of thing I can use to support my family. So great, where are you putting in applications? What are you doing for training? What careers are you looking at? Well, I don't know. I'm just going to pray about it. So I'm not going to put in applications. I'll be doing it in my own strength. I'm just going to pray, and I'm sure I'm going to wake up one morning and I will suddenly be in a lucrative career. So if your son came to you and said that to you, what would you think? Good plan? Or would you kind of think maybe getting some training might be a good idea, finishing his education might be a good idea, putting in some applications might be a good idea, getting a resume together might be a good idea, sending out these resumes might be a good idea, or is just going into his bedroom, quitting school, and doing nothing except prayer be the complete answer? I think most parents would kind of see the value in resumes and applications and education and training. It's the same thing with just about everything else. So it's not prayer alone. Prayer leads. And prayer helps lead and guide you in the wisdom of the actions you're going to take. Prayer helps lead and guide you in the insights and the awareness and the opportunities and to spot the doors when you might be near them, to give you ideas and stir things inside of you. Now, this lesson isn't a lesson on prayer. We do have other lessons on prayer, and certainly take a look at those, listen to those, learn how prayer works. Even if there were no God, prayer is still powerful. And of course, all the other lessons of prayer about the economy of miracles, about 1,000 points of prayer, these are important principles to understand when you are praying for something, and that you also take your action. So be tenacious, but be wise in your tenacity. Make decisions as to when would be a good time to stop. So that way you don't start paying a price that is higher than the prize is worth. And to consider what it is you're doing. Some people are tenacious about winning every argument, unaware that the price that they're paying for winning every argument is they're destroying every relationship they have. Sometimes including their marriage, sometimes including their relationship with their own children. And that maybe the price they're paying for the prize of winning every argument isn't worth it. Whatever it is you're doing, just keep an eye on the prize and be aware of the price and wisely decide when is a wise time to maybe stop paying this price. Not because you don't feel like it, but because it's no longer wise to continue. And where it is wise to continue, at least it's not unwise to continue, keep on asking. Keep on seeking. Keep on knocking. And understand that most of life isn't about one and done. Most of life is about learning and exploring and connecting and building. Most of life, like you're learning for seeking corporate clients, a dozen connections before they got a contract. And having a dozen connections doesn't mean that they get a contract, but of those who got the contract, it took about a dozen connections. When you knew someone who went job hunting, think about 5 people you know who went job hunting. How many applications did it take? How many people do you know that got their jobs, one application, one time, someone called up and said, you're hired? Even people who put in applications, they go through interviews, and second interviews, sometimes third interviews, sometimes a whole long process. Even when they get their job at the first place they apply, there's often still a process. Rarely would I expect to send out a resume and someone calls me and says, you're perfect, you're exactly what we want, we don't even need to talk to you, you start tomorrow. And we're going to pay you more than what you asked for. All the benefits, that top salary, come in tomorrow, you're our guy. I would be shocked. I praise God for that, but I would also be shocked. I would expect the process. So while you're asking, seeking, and knocking, expect it to be a process. Expect to keep on asking, expect to keep on seeking, expect to keep on knocking, and expect to keep on praying. Count the cost as you go. Consider the value of the prize, and consider the cost of the price. Make sure you're being wise in that choice, and within the bounds of wisdom, which is your judgment call, and a lot of that fuzzy area, it's your judgment call, and you have to decide, which also means you have to take responsibility for it. And then you pursue it in wisdom and tenacity. So win or lose, you can always look back, and you can be satisfied that you handled it well and that you did your part. So be tenacious and be wise. Thank you.